I'd just like to welcome everyone to the weekly webinar from Contact Live. My name is Clive Snell. I'm the MD of the Contact Live series of conferences. Very excited to introduce Michael Puscar today. He's going to talk about using AI to create personalized remote curriculums for students. Incredibly relevant with the way that the world is currently. Michael is the founder of Technologist based in Colombia. He has had a 25-year career as a data scientist and entrepreneur, and has seen, and that career has seen him develop solutions in big data tech, scalability, search, advanced security techniques, and semantic indexing. I'm really sure we're in for a treat. The way this one works is we're using Zoom webinar. Your mics will be muted already. We've got something like 100 people registered to attend, so hopefully plenty of people will be dipping in. If you want to ask questions, please do on the Q&A tab. We hope to run for about 30 minutes. Michael will speak for 20 to 25 minutes, and then we'll pick up with Q&A at the end. That's all from me. All I need to do now is be very pleased to hand you over to Michael Puscar. Michael.
Thank you, Clive. I really appreciate it. Hi, everyone. As Clive said, my name is Michael Puscar. I'm the President and CEO of Technologist. Many of you might know me because I've presented at the last two content conferences. If you've been to those conferences, then you've heard me speak. If not, it's a pleasure to be with you today. My background is in AI technology. I'm a technologist at heart, even though I do run a company. I'm coming to you from the mountains of Colombia in South America. I hope everybody is doing well. I'm going to share my screen and get into what we're going to talk about today, which is using AI to create personalized remote curriculums for students. A topic, as Clive said, that's very relevant in today's day and age, and why AI is sort of the catalyst for change in the high-tech industry, something that has been ripe for change for quite some time. Before we get started, I do want to give some context. Now, I have the benefit of working for a services company, Technologist, and many of you work for one company. You work in one department. You might wear many hats in your role day to day. But working at a company like Oiga, we have the benefit of having 20 different clients and 100 different employees. And what that means is, because we're so focused on AI, we get the ability to sort of jump in to various different projects and solve different problems in different verticals and do it using emerging technology. So I get the benefit of seeing sort of what's happening on the cutting edge ahead of everybody else. And that's kind of what I want to talk to you about today. And today we're going to focus on the education sector. So let's start by talking about this term. You've heard it, the new normal. And the new normal means different things in different contexts. But I want to tell you that obviously there's a lot of people struggling right now. There's a lot of industries that are failing, companies that are failing, and we're not going to dwell on those today. I want to talk about the positive. In every crisis, there's always opportunity, as callous as that may sound. And in the case of COVID, it's forced us to do things in a very different way. And it's forced us to change how we approach problems. So typically, I'm asked, because I work in AI and I work with a lot of futurists, I'm asked, well, what's going to happen in the next 5 years? These days, I'm being asked, what's going to happen in the next 5 months? We don't know, and I think it's important to start thinking about those things. And like I said, again, I'm a big believer in human ingenuity and to some degree American exceptionalism, but I believe that humans solve great problems when they're faced with those problems. And I think that's sort of what we need to focus on in today's day and age. So let's see, what are some of those opportunities? We're going to focus on AI, we're going to focus on higher ed, but let's just talk in general for just one moment. So Disney Plus added 50 million new subscribers in the last, 3-4 months? That's an amazing number. 52% of US consumers shop for groceries online. 20% of those are first-time shoppers. So we have to assume, as people are starting to change their living patterns and their buying patterns to adjust to COVID, that this is permanent. That when things change, we're not just going to roll back to the way things were when the virus is gone, right? And that brings us to distance learning. So, and again, lots of sectors we could talk about, telemedicine, but when we talk about online education, students for years, for hundreds of years, colleges and universities have been doing things in a certain way. Coursera now has 550 colleges signed up across 120 countries. That's new. So clearly everybody is moving online. So how do we create a better distance learning experience for students? Even better, how do we create a learning experience for university students that not only meets what they were receiving in the university, but exceeds it, right? So that's the goal. It can't just be we repeat the learning experience that they have in university, because one of the benefits of having them all at home and having them online is the use of technology. So how can we deploy that technology to make it a better experience? So let's start with what higher ed was like before COVID. And this is a standard lecture hall. Now, I'm in my late 40s, so this is what it was like when I was in school. Still is to some degree today. Everyone goes into the lecture hall. There's some 250 students, maybe at least north of 100. Every student has the same syllabus. Every student's working from the same textbook and course material. There's standardized grades and standardized testing. It's a one-size-fits-all solution. It worked. I'm not maligning it. Okay, for the last, again, hundreds of years, for centuries, this is how we've done things. And some students get left behind because we know that every student is different. Some students just simply aren't good test takers. Some have different strengths and some have different weaknesses. So it's an opportunity to do things different. So let's talk about education in the now, okay? And Clive just mentioned to me before the call that Cambridge University just announced that in the next semester, for the rest of the academic year, there will be no in-person lectures. Everything will be online. I suspect that most universities and colleges throughout the world will follow in that same model. So everybody's moving online. So what's happening today in the new normal with how we do things online? Well, the problem is that every university has a different approach. Every university is doing things differently. Even every professor is doing things differently. So what have we gained? I happen to have a daughter who's a college-age student. She tells me things are more efficient, that she's not sort of bound to a very strict schedule, and she's not bound to a very strict sort of structure in the classroom. And we know that there's some private schools, such as the Montessori schools, that already were operating in that way with less structure, and they found it to be better for their students. So the students are more efficient, perhaps, more access to online materials, technology, and resources. And what are they losing? Well, they're losing that social interaction with their peers. They're losing access to physical laboratories for those of us who are in the sciences, who would be going to a computer lab or chemistry lab, physics lab, and so forth. And I think most importantly, they lose those contrarian points of view that when you're in a university, you have the opportunity to be in a classroom setting and debate with other students and talk to other researchers. So I think this is not ideal. It's not even necessarily better. It's sort of what we've had to do to adjust on very short notice. Before we talk about where we're going and how and we inject artificial intelligence into the conversation, which is my passion, let's just recognize one thing. Anything that you want to learn online right now, you can. And it's been that way for quite some time. And I'm a big proponent of technology and education, and we do a lot of work in communities here in South America and in Southeast Asia. And I think one of the most important things about technology is if you have access to the internet now, you have access to resources that you never had before. Someone here in the mountains of Colombia who lives in a very small and impoverished town, as long as they have internet access, they can now access videos and classroom materials, and they can educate themselves, which is very powerful. But if you want to learn Albania, there's a course online for that. If you want to learn how to cook pesto, you can do that too. Learning Python, there's a myriad of courses online for how to learn Python, and Python, of course, is one of the principal languages being used to program with data science and artificial intelligence in today's day and age. Digital marketing, human anatomy, photography, gardening, on and on and on and on. The point is, anything that you want to learn online, you can. Now, we know that there's a direct correlation between wealth and your level of education. We know this. And we know that there's a direct correlation between your level of education and the type of job that you can get once you leave university. So what we're looking for is equal access to students throughout the entire world, customized curriculums, so that every student has access, direct access from their own homes with the internet to the learning materials they need to be the type of person they want to be and succeed in life. And that's the benefit of all of us, right? So let's start talking about distance learning, and let's sort of reimagine what it could be. And when I talk about this, I don't mean to be futuristic about it. I don't mean to talk about something that's coming, because many of our customers are already doing this. So these are solutions that are either being developed or have already been developed and are being trialed and used. Okay, so let me make that very clear. So we want to put the power in the hands of the professors, okay? Rather than having a syllabus and a textbook that gets passed out to students and lecturing to 250 students in a big lecture hall, now we have the opportunity to be very personalized and individualized with students. We can put learning materials in the hands of professors that they can deploy to really customize learning experience and understand the strengths and weaknesses of each of their students. We can use artificial intelligence technology and a technology that's been around for a long time, which is just content classification technology, so that we can break content. And when I say content, I mean text content. It can be textbooks, but it can be videos, and it can be audio, it can be multimedia content, into chapters and sections. So we can break it up, and we can tag it with the specific subject area headings that is relevant to it. And this, by the way, applies to research as well. We're not just talking about undergrad students. We're talking about advanced master's, doctorates, and additional research, postgrad research. So we can tag it. And what that allows professors to do is to search through that material, find relevant components for the lesson that they're going to teach that very day, and then quickly create a curriculum. Okay, so that's very, very powerful, and that's something that can be done and then transmitted directly to the students in an interactive way. It's been about 10, 15 years since we started working with XML databases, for example, and many of you who are out there, if you're in the publishing industry, especially if you're at an Elsevier or a John Wiley, you're already doing this. You've got your textbooks in or your journals in XML format. You've got them tagged with chapters. You got them tagged with subject headings, and you have, for example, MathML to be able to keep the formulas, tests and quizzes, all of these types of things. And you're already starting to produce some of this content, but it's taking the next step and handing it to the professors and letting them actually start to create those curriculums. So I'm going to jump into just a quick demonstration of a product called ZeoTag. I'm not selling this product. I do have to say that I'm an investor in this product, so I want to make sure that that's clear. But ZeoTag is a very interesting product because it allows you to take multimedia content, and also you can use text content, run it through a proprietary classification algorithm, and automatically classify individual sections of the content with subject area from a global ontology. And it also breaks, more importantly perhaps, breaks the multimedia content into chapters and sections so that you can easily navigate them and get to the parts. And I'll explain why this is important in a minute, and I'll try to keep this as a sort of short demo. So I'm going to jump quickly into a video about a webinar, actually, about cybersecurity. So on the left-hand side here, you see the video, just as you might see it on YouTube. On the right-hand side, there's the transcript, and there's the ZeoTags. And as I expand the tags here, you can see I can jump directly into the section of the video that I want to see. So the ZeoTag guys like to say, you wouldn't read a 500-page textbook without a table of contents. So why do you watch a 1, 2, or 3 hour long form video without one? Very good question. So I can just click directly on one of the sections of that video, and I can jump directly into it. So I can get just to the section that I need. Very useful. Anyone who's gone to YouTube or has been sent a video by a friend and has looked at it and said, oh boy, I don't have time to watch this. Now they can get just to the part of the content that's relevant. But it's especially relevant in higher ed, and the ability to be able to take a professor to search through an entire inventory. And there's companies out there like, of course, ProQuest and EBSCO and Infobase that have large multimedia libraries and large libraries of learning materials. The ability to search through them, get to a very granular level, I'm talking as the professor, find it, and then drag and drop them into a custom curriculum for students is something that is a game changer, frankly. And this is what precisely we're starting to see. More than that, students can collaborate. So we said one of the big problems that we hear from students now that they're stuck at home is that they can't share, they don't have that sort of social collaboration with their students. Well, you know, I could just take a section, I could choose to share it, and I could share it with one of my fellow students, and we can sort of chat about it. We can create a discussion. So this is very important. So that's enough about ZeoTag, but I just wanted to put sort of a tool in front of what I'm talking about so you can sort of get the idea of what I mean here. And I want to get into the actual AI component because that's one of the reasons a lot of you are joining the webinar. So where does the AI come in? That sounds like a very manual process. Well, first of all, the creation of the chapters and section and the classification. And without going into too much detail because it's proprietary technology, very interesting how ZeoTag chooses to do it. They build their ontology based on research materials and subject area experts. So if there's journals published, or the journals that have been published or research papers, they're able to use that to infer an ontology of topics, which are then used to put against each of these individual sections and make them more discoverable. So I think that's a really ingenious way to sort of solve that problem. But the idea, I'm going to contradict myself. I said that we want to put the power in the hands of the professors, and we do, the ultimate power. But one of the things that we really want to do is, it's not scalable, right? It's not scalable. So we want to get the AI to sort of do some help for the professor and help them sort of move them along. So with AI, what we want to do is sort of improve that learning experience by creating personalized custom curriculums. So I'm gonna take some examples outside of higher ed. There's an algorithm that's been around since the 90s called collaborative filtering. It was created by Amazon. And even if you've never heard of it, you know what it is. Have you ever gone to Amazon, put 3 things into your cart, and then you scroll down and it says, people who bought these 3 items also like these 3 items, right? That's collaborative filtering. It's a very basic algorithm, but since the 90s, it's advanced quite a bit. And now, of course, we've replaced it with the use of neural networks and learning. What are we doing? Well, I'll give you another example. How many times have you said, boy, I've got to take my dog to the veterinarian, and you've searched online for veterinarians, and then you stopped. And then suddenly, every webpage you visit, you're getting ads about veterinarians. Well, you're being watched. You're being observed, as creepy as that is. And if we're going to have all of our students online, and we're going to be doing interactive course materials with them, then we might as well start observing them as well. And what we can start to do is not only start looking at their test results, because we already said that we know that test results are not always reliable because some students don't test well, just as some football players don't practice well, right? And they're great game day players. Some students don't test well, but they're amazing engineers and scientists and doctors. So we want to have a sort of a holistic view of the student. So we start to dive in and we start to say, let's observe the student and everything that they do. And in doing that interaction, and I'm talking about everything. I'm talking about which videos they watch, which parts of the videos they watch, which ones they replay, what kinds of messages they're commenting on with fellow students, and all of those things. And of course, their test scores, because that does matter, and their exam results, and their laboratory results. We start to build a holistic profile for the user, for the student, excuse me. And then we start to be able to say, the student is weak here and strong here. Now, it's not quite that simple. It's more of a matrix. It's not two-dimensional like that. But in doing that, we could start to go to the students and we could say, we could really improve the learning experience. That is a gigantic leap from where we are. Not only providing them with custom course materials and custom curriculums, but providing them with those based on their profile so that we can enhance their learning experience and make them faster learners, and better professionals later to the benefit of all of us. So that is a very short version of what I'm going to be speaking about at Contact Forum in a few months. That was about 20 minutes. I'm happy to take any questions that anyone has about anything I discussed today.
Oh, hi, Michael. Thank you so much for that. That was really, really insightful. We have one question, which I'll read out. Observing everything the student does seems like an incredible breach of privacy. What student would want all that? What parent would want that for their kids?
Yeah, that's a great question, and it's a very important question as well. So privacy is an important issue, and in order to enact a system like this, and again, there's already companies that are starting to experiment with this, but in order to do it on a massive scale, you need consent from the students. I think why they would want to do it is quite clear. It's a better learning experience. So if you know, let's just say there's some people who struggle learning languages, for example. You know, some people who are very good at learning languages and some people who struggle. So if you struggle at learning languages, if you could be presented with software and algorithm that could present that learning material to you in such a way that could make it easier to learn, easier to comprehend, and advance your learning, I think most students would take that. I'm going to use a very odd and strange example, but we have a problem in the United States with the drug Adderall, which is an ADHD drug, but students are taking it, and it's widespread use in campuses across the United States because they want a competitive advantage. They want to get ahead. This is the ultimate competitive advantage because in observing your profiles, now, again, privacies have to be completely safeguarded. And I could understand the distress because we've been betrayed so many times by the tech giants on these topics. But if we can observe the students and provide them with materials that advance their learning in a way that gives them a huge leap forward over what they've been able to do in the past, I think most students and especially most parents would go for that. And I wish I had the number in front of me. I don't, but I know that millions of dollars are spent each year by parents in tutors for their students and other things that can help them get ahead on SAT tests and things like that. So I do think, in some degree, just one last point on privacy. I'm a libertarian and I'm a strong privacy advocate, but I think at some point we have to sort of resign ourselves to the fact that privacy has become just not what it was, and we're going to have to sort of deal with that and cope with that. And everyone can still make their own individual decisions, but when we have the opportunity to make a big advance, I think sometimes we have to go ahead and do that.
Michael, that's a great answer. I think it's a really difficult issue. I think it is at the heart of many of the tech developments we're seeing. So I think it would take a little longer than we've got to answer that particular question fully. Yeah. I think the response you've had is still too much invasion of privacy. Okay, we respect that position. We have another question. Sam Herbert would like to offer first. That was a great presentation. Thank you. Are universities already taking these approaches? Can you talk to any examples of benefits delivered?
So it's only being trialed right now with some universities, and it's being trialed and discussed with. I have to be very careful because some of the these are contracts that I'm under their non-disclosure. So no, unfortunately, I can't give you a name, but I can tell you that it's being trialed and it's being used, and we'll see where it takes it. Now, be very specifically, not profiling of students. That component is still sort of on the cutting edge, but the ability for professors to be able to go in and create custom course materials for their students and to be able to have content tagged up and be able to search through it and find it and quickly sort of build those curriculums. That yes is already being trialed and implemented, and I expect by the fall semester that there'll be some universities that'll be deploying those. As far as being able to profile the students, I would say that's 2021 type of future. It's not distant future, it's close future, but there's, as the first question mentioned, there's a number of privacy issues that need to be navigated there to get through and start using them. That's
great. Thanks, Michael. I think that does sum up the two main questions we had. For the audience, Michael is scheduled to speak again with us at the Contact Forum, which is on the 9th of June, a whole day virtual event. That's currently open for registration at contactlive.com. That would be a great opportunity to hear more about this particular area, and indeed to pose some of those questions again. So thank you, Michael, very much for a first-class presentation. We enjoyed it very much. All I have to do is thank you very much for doing that, and to mention that the online video, which is fully ZeoTagged, because we're working with ZeoTag, that's a coincidence, of course, will be available hopefully tomorrow. That we completely transcribed and indexed, and we've had feedback that that performs a very useful tool for our users. The only thing left for me is to say, I hope you enjoyed it. Thanks very much for coming. Next week's Wednesday webinar, we have got Sebastian Kohlmeier, who's from Semantic Scholar, and he will also be talking specifically about the COVID-19 crisis and their response to it. So thanks everyone for coming. We're just heading 5 o'clock here in the UK. The sun's shining, so I want to wish everyone a good evening or a good afternoon, depending on where you are, and hopefully see you all again very soon. Bye-bye.
Thank you for the opportunity, Clive. Take care, everyone.